Outlined against the blue-gray October sky, the four horsemen rode again. Hi, I'm Steve Myers, candidate for mayor of Baton Rouge. Today we're issuing another Myers message, this one a fourth part in our series on private property and rental property. This one is concerning the constitutional issues of living together. Yesterday we gave you some examples of how Baton Rouge's Unified Development Code enforcement is hostile towards some groups of people, including renters and private property owners who rent their property. This is somewhat surprising, especially since the American Community Survey, which is conducted in conjunction with the census, indicates that of the 190,000 living units in Baton Rouge, about a third of them are rental property, and of that third, about 65 or 70,000, about 10,000 are individual single-family houses, and the others are multiple family apartment complexes, things like that. So you've got a huge number of people who rent in Baton Rouge, including almost 10,000 A1 zoned houses. But the definition of family in the Unified Development Code, in our view, essentially completely violates protections that are granted under the First Amendment, which guarantees free association, under the Fifth Amendment, under the Ninth Amendment, which reserves to the people powers that aren't specifically delegated, and various other private property and contract rights guaranteed by the United States Constitution. So Baton Rouge's definition of family, frankly, is an example of government overstepping its bounds. You know, we often know when there's a bad law when it's violated with impunity by the citizens and when the government selectively enforces it. I place the red light cameras in this category. I also place in this category the open container law, where a poor black man on the corner will get picked up, but no one at a sporting event will ever get cited for an open container. The definition of family is another example where government power crosses the line and essentially loses the consent of the governed, because this definition is violated hundreds and hundreds of times throughout thousands of times throughout James Madison said in Federalist 51 that in framing a government which is to be administered by men over men, the great difficulty lies in this: you must first enable the government to control the governed, and in the next place oblige it to control itself. We think this encroachment by the government on civil liberties and private property is the government that just simply cannot control itself. The council and mayor and parish attorney's office, these government entities are becoming more threatening every day in their attempt to garner more power over your private life. The results are becoming obvious: more disdain and more disregard for bad laws. Now the answer is simple. The Metro Council just simply needs to control itself, let freedom reign, discriminate against various classes of people if they're protected under federal law. For example, in the case of rental property, the irony is the same house could have 10 unrelated people in a sober living home under the protection of the federal government through the Americans with Disability Act, but 3 nerds in the computer industry or 3 business people who wanted to live together in a neighborhood couldn't do it under the Unified Development Code. So we live in a different culture than the 1950s when this law was written. I suspect we know probably with the racial situation at the time why it was written. It needs to be found unconstitutional or replaced by the Metro Council. As far as we can find, this law has never been challenged constitutionally, but there is a case currently pending in the 19th Judicial District Court. Now, these court cases wouldn't be necessary if the mayor and the council and the Planning and Zoning Commission showed a little more tolerance and did not allow laws to pass because the pitchfork crowd or the few who have some special interest go down there and lobby them. You know, most people want to go about and live their lives, and so they don't really pay much attention to a lot of the things that are done down at the council. But these things directly affect your private property rights and the way that you live your life. Now, the legal issues are complicated, and they might be more easily understood rather than me talking about them, is for you to look at an article that actually is appearing in this month's Around the Bar Journal, the magazine of the Baton Rouge Bar Association. It's just a 2-page article, but it talks about all of the legal issues of Baton Rouge's definition of family in the Unified Development Code. And I'm going to provide a link to that on our website at themyersmessage.com. You know, I've said this before, I'll say it again, Baton Rouge can be a nice place to live for everyone. We can make it happen if we make it Myers.